Okay, so let me rerun this because I'm not sure exactly where it kicked us out. So this will end up in 2 recordings again. So now it's going to come in, it's asking me for a number. Oh, I just did a run, I want to debug. So it comes in, it's at the while loop.
Share your desktop.
Oh, thank you. All right, it's at the while loop. So it's going to go in the while loop because X is not 0. So now it's popped in, it's asking me for a number. I'll put a number in. It's at the X, check to see if X is 0. I put a non-zero number in. So when I continue, the if was false. Or when I go on, I shouldn't use the word continue because we've got the continue statement. The if was false, so it jumped down. It's going to append to the list and pop back up to the top. And I know it's kind of small, but here it says list 1, list is 20. And so I can look at that. Tell it now to move in. It's now asking me for another number. I'll go ahead and hit 0 this time. Oh, I got to hit enter. Okay. So now X is 0. This if will be true. This if will be true. So it should go in and hit the continue. And it does. When it executes the continue, instead of exiting out of the loop, it will go back up to the top of the loop. And it does. Now, in this particular case, when it checks the while condition, X is 0. And so it will exit out of the program or exit out of the loop and come down to the list. And the list only has the 20 in it. So the exit or the continue says go back to the top of the loop, where the break says exit the loop. And maybe we want a condition, we want to continue and not add if I put in a 10. So if X is 10, I don't want to append that to the list. So I could say that, put just a couple of breakpoints in. So you'll see. And now it's at the while. It's going to go in because X is not 0. It asks me for a number. Well, let me first put 5 in this time. When I put 5 in, it gets the if X is 10. Well, that's going to be false, so it comes down. It'll add 5 to the list, go back to the top. X is still not 0. So it's going into the loop, so it'll ask me for another number. I'm going to enter a 10 this time. So now it's at the if. This time the if's going to be true. So it goes in there, it sees the continue, pops up to the top. So that 10 did not get added to the list. But it's still not going to exit the loop because we're not at a 0. So it comes in, asks me for another number. I'll go ahead and put a 0 in. Well, the if's going to be false. X is 0, not 10. So now it's going to add the 0 to the X, or to the list rather, and it does. Comes back to the top. Now this is going to be false because X is 0. And so it pops out and ends the program, or ends the loop. So there are different reasons and times where break is what you want or continue is what you want. In this particular case, we ended up with the 0 appended to the end of the list, but you can see that hopefully how it jumps up and down and works. So is there any questions on the list there? Or not the list, the while with the break and continue?
Nope.
Okay. And we saw how we could do totals in there inside the loop or the while loop, calculations. You use a for loop when essentially you know how many times you go through the loop. And when I say know how many times, that does not necessarily mean you know it's going to be 30 times, but you know you're going to go and there's a definite end. So I've got a list that maybe I want to go through 50 times or has 50 items one time, 75 the next. But when it gets to the end of the list, it'll end the for loop. With the while loop, we don't know how many times it's going to go through at the start. We'll, you know, as we go through, we'll find out. So any questions there?
No.
Yep, I'm good.
You're good. Okay. What I'm going to do with tomorrow's, and the tomorrow one is, I think, at noon, or is it at 1:30?
Noon.
Noon. Not, yeah, Wednesday my classes are at 10:30 and noon. What I'm going to do there is we're going to look at using a list in a while loop, and that should finish out while loops. So this time we created a list with a while loop, but we're going to see how we can read a list with a while loop and maybe a couple of other little things. Normally, if you're just reading a list, you would use a for loop, the for X in the list, but we'll see that you can do it both ways. And then if we finish that out and get all that done, next week we will pick up and we'll do we'll start user-defined functions. Actually, I think we'll look at a couple of library functions first and then user-defined. One of the library functions we'll use, we might do tomorrow, so we'll see how it goes then. And again, barring technical difficulties, we'll record these sessions, so you don't have to necessarily be here all the time. Okay, any last questions?
I was wondering if I could take a look at your first Zoom pie charm example.
The first one today?
No, the first one when you started Zoom.
When I started, okay. I think
just
this was
just to see where we left off and
okay.
And if else.
And all of those examples should be on that share that I posted in the announcements as well.
Okay, good.
Right?
Sounds good.
Any question about it, or are you just trying to figure out where we started?
Yeah, I just wanted to see where we started at, and if it's on D2L, then I've got it.
It should be on D2L, and the Zoom session. There's that link to the. I decided rather than post every single Zoom session in each one, I gave you a link to the Google Drive with all these files, but the other link is just to the playlist of all the Zoom sessions, and it will include, watch the ones, but it will include my Zoom sessions for engineering, programming, and Active Directory as well. So.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So just ignore those unless you really are interested.
Okay.
You're a programming major. You don't want to see those.
Yeah.
I'm not, so I probably want to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I already did the programming thing.
Yep. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now and just end us. And feel free to either email or use the discussion board to ask questions. It's not gotten nearly the amount of activity as I expected, but go ahead and use that. We'll see you all later.
Right.
All right. Thank you.